And a good day to you, Explorer Nation. John Lynskey, your ambassador for alumni affairs, here with episode 20 of season 5, Looking Back with Lynskey. Very special guest to close the year out today. Marist Educator Supreme. He's done everything you can possibly do. He's been a teacher, he's been a coach, he's been a guidance counselor, he's been a vocational director, a campus minister, a development director. And for 2 terms now, he's in his 2nd term. He is the provincial for the United States. It is a great honor to introduce Brother Dan O'Riordan. Brother, thank you for being here today.
It's great to be here with you and all the explorers, and thank you so much, John, for the opportunity.
No, it's something we've looked forward to for a long time. And it's great that you took the time out of your very busy schedule. You're a man on the move all the time. So I'm glad we've got an opportunity to sit and chat for a while. Brother, you're a name very well known in Explorer Nation, but I think it's always great to put a face and a personality with a name. And so that's one of the goals we want to achieve today, to get everybody to know you a little bit better. And there's myriad topics to touch on, the future, where we're going. But you know, the past is prologue to the future. So why don't we go back? You're New York born and raised, of Irish Catholic heritage, and you're a Molloy graduate. So take us back to the early days, if you would, brother.
Well, like many of the explorers, I had the privilege to go to one of our Marist schools in New York, Archbishop Molloy. Unlike many of the explorers, I actually had the privilege my freshman year to be ranked 2nd in my class. I was ranked 2nd from last. It was my first marking period at Molloy. My guidance counselor, who was really an incredible mentor and an influence on my life, Brother Regis, called me down around the end of October, and he kind of said to me, "How's Molloy going, Dan?" And I said, "Oh, I love it. You know, I'm running track and cross country, and I got a lot of friends, and it's great." And he said, he starts laughing. He goes, "That's all well and good, but you're not going to be here very long. You're failing 6 out of 7 subjects."
Wow.
So I needed to change a few things, but thanks to that brother and a few other brothers and some older students who served as tutors at that time. With younger students, I mean, I was able to change things around because of the impact that the atmosphere of, as the explorers and Columbus know well, of that Marist community is taking care of each other. And I was a great recipient of that very early on in my career, and I never forgot it, of what it is to struggle and have people that care about you and people that want to help you succeed. And I certainly was a beneficiary of that. As I said, I had my time in Molloy was phenomenal. I had great, my closest friends in life are still the guys I went to Molloy with and ran track with for the 4 years, and lots of good. We're closer today than we were 40 something years ago.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Actually, next weekend we have we get together about 3 or 4 times a year consistently, and we have our weekend up in Esopus next weekend, and there'll be about 40 of us there with their families and stuff. So it's we're still just incredibly connected, as the Explorer family is. Just those bonds don't go away. And I think it really goes back to our founding, as I came to learn later in life what it meant to be Marist. It really came back to that family spirit that Champagne so much believed in, and it really kind of inspired us to live all around the Marist world. And it's certainly very true where I went to school and many of the places I've worked, and certainly at Columbus as well. That family spirit of connections just doesn't go away.
Yeah, that's something I definitely want us to get into a little bit later. So you graduated from Molloy in '85, and then you went to college over in Ireland. And I know your Irish heritage is very strong. Talk about how that all came about, Dan.
Well, I was very lucky as a growing up. Both my parents were from Ireland. I was born as an only child, but I had lots of cousins, lots of extended family. And really, I spent every summer, every Christmas, every Easter of my life as a kid growing up in Ireland. My parents had a house there as well. My mom worked for Pan Am, the old airlines, which was great.
Nice. Yeah.
And I was, growing up in Ireland, I grew up playing a lot of the Irish sports, Gaelic football and hurling, which is the national sports there. Hurling, I think they'd love it in Columbus. It's a bunch of crazy people hitting each other.
Absolutely.
So I was lucky enough to play on some really great teams and be with, my older cousins and successful, as an underage player. And one thing led to another, and I eventually had the opportunity, to fill a dream of playing ball in college and to go there. And I actually, to be honest with you, John, I wasn't going to go to college. I was, I alluded to a very good academic career at Molloy, so I never quite made it to the other end of the spectrum, but I was lucky enough to get through. And as my career at Molloy was ending, finishing up, my dad had got me working in the Carpenters Union in New York, so I was doing some work on the side, and it was great. I mean, I was making good money, I was doing well. And I didn't really at that time in my life think of being, wanting to go to college, just because academics was a struggle for me at that time. And around April of my senior year, one of my real great mentors in life, Brother Leo Richard, who was teaching at Molloy for many, many years, pulled me in. He says, "So Dan, where are you going to school next year?" And I laughed at him. I said, "Leo, let's face it, I'm glad just to be getting out of high school. I mean, my parents can't believe I actually am going to get out of high school. So I don't, it's a waste to go to college. I have a good job." And he said, "No, you're going to school. You got to go to Ireland next year." He knew I had a chance to play. And if I to get a free ride. So I said, "Leo, if I go to college, I'll probably fail out. It's a waste of time." And he said, "No." He says, you don't do this the rest of your life. You're going to regret it. You'll wake up 25 years from now. You'll say, I could have had a chance to play college ball. I could have had He says, "Go for one semester, play for one season. If you fail out, come back and work. You're going to be working construction the rest of your life. But at least you can say you played ball for one season." So that's how it started. And he came over to see me play when I was in college several times. And I was lucky. I walked into an incredible situation. The college team I was on, when I arrived at the college, had just won the previous 5 national championships in college. And I was lucky enough to walk in and be there for 6, 7, and 8 and be part of those years and eventually coaching at the college. I got my start in coaching there. And it was an incredible dream. I mean, my dad, it was something my dad was our closest, connection in life with sports. And I remember when I won my first college championship, my first All-Ireland, we were up at the stadium and my dad was there. And I mean, I came over and, took the jersey off and, gave it to him. I remember being like an 8-year-old kid at another national championship. And that was the dream, like you try to do. And it would never happen without him. I mean, it was something we shared. And many years ago, the year before my dad died, about 10 years ago, we went back for a reunion. It was like a 25-year reunion for one of the teams that were being honored that I was lucky enough to be part of. And I think my dad enjoyed the reunion more than I did. I mean, it just meant a lot to him. And it was great to be able to share those memories with him and have those experiences in Ireland. And again, making lifelong friends there and still lots of connections. And it was a way for me to, and as I still very much close to my family in Ireland, to have those special years of living there and being part of it. And so it was very special.
And having those mentors that change your life at an early age, you never forget it. And I think we've all made an effort to pay that forward down the road, which we'll talk about. So Dan, everybody has a beginning. For us, lay people, is how did you get into teaching? And then there's a story for everyone. When did you receive the calling? When did you know? Explain your path towards becoming a Marist Brother.
Well, it might not be the exact same story as most guys, nor how I became a teacher. Oddly enough, I was in Ireland. I had just finished college. I was still involved in coaching at the college level, and it was the summer of '89. And I, toward the end of the summer, a good friend of mine came in and said that, there was actually an all-girls Catholic school, and all the schools in Ireland at that time were Catholic schools. It was an all-girls school in the very poor area of Cork City that he said to me, "Would you be interested in teaching 3 periods at the high school?" They were stuck. I had been a math major in college. And I started laughing at him. I said, I did everything I could to get out of high school. I never want to go back. And that was a Friday night. And Saturday he came back to me and begged me again. And I said no. And Sunday we had played some game. And after the game, we were sitting in an Irish pub, as many people do. And after he bought me 3 or 4 rounds, he convinced me to try teaching for a week. So I'm one of the guys that got in under the premise of the influence of alcohol, which thank God it happened, because after a week of teaching, I fell in love, obviously, with and just, it brought me back a lot to the impact that, Molloy and some of my teachers and mentors had on me. And I said, wow, it's a great way of being able to do that. And that year was very significant for me teaching, because unfortunately at that time in Ireland and in the European system in particular, much different than our own system, the school system is very focused on academics as being everything. And at the end of 5 years of high school there, they take these exams to get into college, and everything matters on the one exam at the end of your time. It's like it's just a much different system than we're used to. And when I went into the school, the whole, they didn't just. I wasn't used to what I had. I mean, there wasn't a real concern for the kids and how they're doing their lives. There wasn't, a lot of programs, counseling or guidance or, other ways, campus ministry type things to, for kids to go on retreats or stuff. It was all about academics. And, and I very quickly came to know some of the kids in the school that needed some extra help in lots of other ways outside the classroom. And so the system I found very difficult and very challenging. And I was back in the United States that Christmas of 89, 90. And I had dinner with Leo, my old mentor. And I said to him, like, how much I love the teaching, but I found the school system frustrating. And he said, well, if you come back to the States, you can get a job in a Marist school. And that's how it started, So the following year, I got back in touch with him by January. He got me connected at Roselle Catholic High School, one of our schools in New Jersey. So I taught there for 2 years as a layperson. While I was there, I was very much reconnected with the Marist community, Esopus, retreats, and a lot of the programs that were very special to me when I was in high school. Even some of the summers I had worked in Esopus at our summer camps. So it just the journey began with not really going in and expecting it, and it just slowly emerged. It's like all of a sudden I was in the midst of it, and working in an incredible mission. And I just said, you know what, I gotta get this God thing out of my system. So I said, I'll try it for 6 months. And that was 33 years ago, and I'm still here. They haven't kicked me out yet. So
I think you're in pretty good shape now, Dan. How did your parents react to that?
My mom, both my parents were very faithful people.
Yeah.
My mom was, certainly whatever I wanted to do, there was, that direction my life was going to take. She was very supportive. And as was my dad, but my dad, as I said earlier, we had this really, deep sports connection. And my dad had this incredible love of being in Ireland. And so the fact that I wanted to give up, I gave up living in Ireland and coaching and so on, and the sports type of thing. I think there was a part of him that was a bit disappointed that are you sure you want to do this? You're giving up all this, like everything you dreamed about, probably he dreamed about. But eventually, within a couple of years of my actually becoming a brother, and the stuff I was doing, he certainly couldn't have been more supportive. And as the years went on, I think he, I also think he didn't really understand, didn't really know the Marist brothers until I really became one. He had, I think, genuine concerns, like you're going to give up a family, and I said, I'm not giving up a family. I'm getting a family that's worldwide and just incredible. So, but it was something I think they both came to appreciate as the years went on.
There's been a reoccurring theme in what you've talked about thus far is you weren't a great student, and athletics was very important to you. And I think some of the best teachers are coaches, and vice versa. And coaching is nothing more than teaching outdoors. How important was coaching and competition? And you bond differently with kids, obviously, on a field than you do in a classroom, but it also helps build bonds in the classroom by being a coach. So talk about how that all worked for you, Dan.
Yeah, like I said, I was blessed early on. Right out of college, while we even was in college, to get into coaching. And I was just, incredibly lucky that everywhere I went, there were incredible kids, young people that were willing to do the hard work and make the sacrifices. And you know, we've luckily enough had success, and it's just, you know, it's very special. I mean, some of those teams that I was involved in, you know, I'm still, you know, whether it was in Ireland or the different places I coached track in Molloy in West Virginia and Jersey, I'm still very close to a lot of those former athletes and teams. I mean, they were just incredible. You know, you do, you know, to win a championship or, you know, state championship or a national or something like that, you put in like an incredible amount of work and it stays with you the rest of your life, because it's all the life lessons that come out of it. You know, the bonds you make, you know, the discipline you're willing to put in life, and you know, knowing that hard work can pay off. All those, you know, you dream for something and it happens, and it just stays with you the rest of your life. And I was so blessed all those years to have some incredible teams and athletes, and you know, and I coached track for many years, over 25 years, and you know, as a track coach, I mean, you would take as much joy as seeing a kid break a 5-minute mile as you would winning the national championship. You know, I got to experience both of them, and it was just like, because in track and field, everybody can be successful every day, because you know, you're competing against yourself in the sense of you know, breaking personal times, and so it's just, you know, and it's just like I said, life lessons, teamwork. I mean, hard work, and you know, willing to put the time in, because you want to, you know, better yourself, and those things stay with kids and young people for the rest of their lives, and just great memories. So I was incredibly blessed, and I will always treasure those times.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Brother Dan, so you weren't a great student, but do you think the fact that you weren't a great student and you had to work at it, do you think that helped you be a better teacher in relating to the kids that did struggle, the not yet smart, as we call them at Columbus? Was that an aid to you?
It was an incredible gift, I would say,
Okay.
because I was one of those kids, you know,
Yeah.
and I knew firsthand what it was, you know, to feel, you know, I'm not smart enough, to feel I'm never going to be able to do this. And, you know, having had people walk with me and sometimes maybe carry me through some of those times, allowed me to want to pass that on, as you say, you know, pay it forward. And you can relate to them in different ways, because, you know, when you can share your own story of, listen, when I sat where you are, I was in the same boat. You know, I was, you know, telling kids, look, I was, you know, kids fails 2 subjects, they feel like they're at the end of the rope. And I said, look, I was failing 6 out of 7, you know, and I got through it. I mean, but you can do it, you know, and it's, I think those types of being able to relate in a real way is, it was always a bond. And you know, most of the years I taught, one of the things I would always say to the administrations where I was at was that I would prefer to have the weaker students, because
Yeah.
I could relate a lot. You know, I always found, like, the honors kids, you know, AP kids, you kind of give them the book and they'll figure it out, and they probably know a lot more than I would. But the weaker kids I could relate more to, because that's who I was when I was their age.
And there's no greater feeling than when you see a kid who struggled, when that light bulb clicks. There's no greater feeling of success as an educator than that. It's very gratifying.
And it's you know, and I think it just goes back, you know, as life went on, to understand the Marist mission and Champagne's dream. And you know, Champagne himself was somebody that, you know, was not educated. He went to school one day his entire life. And as we know, the story of Champagne, you know, from the time he began as a simple country priest in Laval, he saw that there was no hope for young people, and a lot of them didn't have education or have any chance of a future, didn't know who God was. And he very much believed in young people. I mean, his whole dream was about young people, and the potential that young people can have if you can walk with them and allow them to believe what they can accomplish. And that spirit is, you know, thankfully still with us 270 years later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you something. You spent a number of years in West Virginia at Bishop Donahue. What was it like to being Catholic in West Virginia? And I know it was way up in the corner there, sort of south of Pittsburgh and east of Columbus, Ohio. How was West Virginia for you?
The West Virginia was 6 very incredible years. for me, it was probably one of the greatest experiences of really living a Marist community, because in West Virginia, not just the school, but everybody was connected. And we would have just incredible community gatherings, and the spirit of people were just, a lot of people didn't. The one thing you learn when you work in poor areas, and with the poor, is people that have nothing are willing to share everything. And that was very, very true in Appalachia. But they were incredible, an incredible community, incredible school. I loved the 6 years I was there. Actually, to be honest with you, at the time, I probably never would have left. My mom's, at the time when I was leaving in 2004, my mom's health was declining, and I was, being an only child, I had talked to the provincial, the Marist Brother at the time, saying that I felt I needed to get closer to home, because she was just in and out of hospital a lot and different things. My dad was in Ireland most of the time at that stage. So that was really the reason I left. I was loved every minute I was there. The kids I was connected to, I'm still very much in touch with them. I still go down 2 and 3 times a year and connect with a lot of the families and the people that are still part of that great community.
We had a really tremendous conversation yesterday. 200 years ago, Father Champagne opened the Hermitage, and he was facing the ultimate challenge of educating young men about Jesus Christ, many of whom had no background in religion and no background in education. That was a tremendous challenge. Here we are 200 years later, and the Marist tradition is still very strong and alive and worldwide. But, brother, the demographics that existed when you were in high school at Molloy, when I was in high school at Columbus, it's a different world we live in now. And it's been a lot of great conversation about delivering a message of spirituality, that you have to change with the times. And so if you would talk as provincial about spreading the mission in 2024 as opposed to 1824.
What I would say is this. I mean, as much as times have changed, times are very much, the needs are still very much the same. I mean, Champagne saw many of the young people in his area did not have the opportunity to come to know who God was. And so many of the young people today across many of our schools, Columbus may be a little bit different, only because of the great Latino influence here, and the Cubans are very close to their religion. But in most schools around the country, many kids come to our schools that are unchurched. Their parents are not going to mass. Their parents are not, frequently involved in their church communities. So a lot of the young people that are entrusted to us today, not only in the United States but worldwide, are young people that that are very much in need, the same as in Champagne's time, to come to know who God was in real ways. When I look back, as you mentioned, John, that 200 years ago, Champagne and a bunch of young kids, really, because that's what those young brothers were, teenagers, kids who would have been high schoolers today. When Champagne started his dream, he started with 2 kids who were willing to say yes to this, and they didn't know how to read or write. He taught them, and then they started small little schools in the hamlets around Lavala. And as the number grew from 2 to 4 to 6, they realized pretty quickly that the little, literally, shack they were living in, we've still been there today, you can still go there and you'd shake your head and you'd say, how could anyone live like that? They realized they needed to build something larger. And Champagne borrowed money because they had none. And below the valley of Lavala, he bought literally the side of a mountain. He bought a granite mountain that kind of came slanted down to this little river called the GA. And he said he was going to build his home and house for the future of Marist life, what's come to known as the Hermitage. And people laughed at him. He was a laughingstock. People said, why would you, this is worthless land. It's a granite mountain. What are you going to, and he and those young people literally with primitive tools, chisels, they cut down the side of a mountain. I mean, I've been there and I've seen the chisel marks on the back wall. and they used that rock, and they built this 150 room house, in Hermitage, and beautiful chapel. And then people started laughing at him and saying to him, Champagne, you're out of your mind. Like, why would you build something this big? You have 10 or 12 young brothers. No one's ever going to join this. And he said, by the time we're done, it will be in every diocese in the world. Now, we haven't gotten that far yet, but we are in 82 countries, I believe, today, and we're in 600,000 young people in schools all around the Marist world. So he wanted to look beyond the granite walls of the mountains at the Hermitage. He wanted to look to the future and build something for the future. And that's what we're called as Marist today to do as well. I mean, there's lots of mountains in our own lives and lots of obstacles in any of our schools or as we move forward in life. And it's how to, like Champagne, to impact young people that they can believe that they can do anything. And I can tell you my own experience in 33 years as a brother, my heroes in life are young people, because I've seen so many of them that have taken on incredible granite-like mountain challenges, overcome them, and have built the world, better. And we don't have to go too far from Columbus to find examples of that. And I can share plenty of them of young people that have done amazing things in that same spirit of Champagne about, making this world a better place, which is what we're all about, and Champagne's desire was to take young people that needed, education, didn't know who God was, and to help make them good Christians and good citizens, and that really would be citizens that would change the world and live a life filled with faith and doing good. And thankfully, that dream continues through the lives of so many of our continued brothers and our lay Marist educators, and really instilled and the gift given to young people who are taking it and running with it and doing incredible things today.
What was very interesting, and we talk about this at Columbus a lot. When I was in school, we never heard anything about Marshall and Champagne, but we were taught to be Marist. We were being Marist, didn't even know it. Now there's this tremendous information and knowledge about Marshall that I think, because obviously it was a few years ago. When I was in school at Columbus, 95% of the kids had come from all the Catholic schools, went to church every Sunday. You could count on that. Everybody was cut from the same cloth. And so there wasn't really a need to emphasize who Marshall was. It was all around us. Now it's completely different. And it's very gratifying to see kids come in as ninth graders with, as you say, with no spiritual background. Their parents don't go to church. They may not be Catholic. They're coming from a public school, for one thing. And by the time they leave, they understand exactly what it is to be Marist. And that is a tremendous credit to what all of us do as a team, from the top all the way down. And that's something that's got to give you great satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, it just, the dream, as I said, is that important today, and maybe even more so than it was when Champagne started out. And just seeing what, young people, continue to do with their lives because of the impact of what we were able to share with them, who they become, whatever role and vocation they go into. I think having been at a Marist school, they become great fathers. They become great husbands. They become great, in whatever field of life. They're always looking to how can they do something for somebody that's in need. Because, and they just live faith-filled lives in their own incredible ways. And that's, what greater thing to be part of than to be able to pass that on and just see it happen year after year.
No, I couldn't agree more. And one thing that I've noticed about the Marist brothers is when you guys are asked to do something, you just say yes and you do it. Talk about your time as a development director at Roselle, and what you knew about development and how it went, and did you find it rewarding?
I did. I didn't know very much about it until I got into it. But what I came to very much at Roselle find is, the first thing was reconnecting with a lot of the older alumni.
Okay.
And, a lot of Roselle Catholic were very lucky. They had some, incredible alumni connections and a lot of great teams from the 60s and 70s. So we did a lot of events, around those special moments. And those, as I got to know those groups of folks, their love of the school was incredible. And the impact that being part of those teams and being those life lessons they learned at Roselle Catholic when they were in school in the 60s and the 70s into the 80s continues to be very much a part of their life. And I got very close to the alumni there. I mean, I would see very much parallels between my own friends in Molloy that I ran track with. I mean, they would come back for reunions. They come back, there was a group of they would have competitions, like which class is going to have the most guys at the golf outing, or which class is going to have the most guys at this event. And, they'd be class of 66 and the class of 70 and the class, and they'd be battling it out. I mean, they were just, the camaraderie was amazing. And like even my own, very much the Marist spirit was alive, as you said, John, and it was the same when I went to Molloy. I mean, a freshman in any of our Marist schools today knows more about Marcelin Champagne and the Marist Charism than I did probably halfway through my novitiate as a brother. And that's the truth. Because when we went any of our Marist schools around the world, when we went to school in this, up until the late 90s, there was an old picture of Champagne in most classroom walls. At the end of the day, you probably said a prayer that ended with "Blessed Marcelin Champagne, pray for us," and that was the extent of your Marist education in those years.
Pretty much.
But you know what? It was did I know what it meant to be Marist when I left high school and into college? I knew the people that gave me life lessons I'll never forget. And now that I have vocabulary and I have an understanding of, since then, I mean, we've had a lot of education, and now people can put names on, like what does family spirit mean? The Marist pillars, in the way of Mary. We witnessed all that. We just never knew it. We just didn't have names for it. We lived it without ever really knowing what, having names or calling anything, but it was very evident. I mean, I look back, my time, I mean, the witness of the brothers and teachers there, of hard work, of, in the way of Mary, family spirit. It was very much that I would have described a lot of those things without really having the vocabulary at the time. But now looking back and you say, oh yeah, we had it. We just never talked about it.
Yeah. We were living it.
We were living it. And thankfully it's being passed on in different ways today. But as I said, young people today, I'm incredibly inspired by it, because young people today at 14, 15, 16 are doing more in real concrete ways for our world and at our schools than I was 24 or 5 before I even started to think about some of those opportunities of going out and making a difference. And, I mean, so many of our young people in schools today are going on mission trips. I mean, Columbus is phenomenal. They go to the Blue Missions. They go to El Paso. They have, the Junior Day of Service here. Not that I was a bad kid, but, when I was in high school, it was track, it was cross country, it was my friends, it was girls, it was somehow to pass classes so I didn't have to go to summer school. That was life. I mean, there was nothing else going on in that three nutshells of a brain I might have had at the time. Because it just wasn't something that was in my consciousness. Today, young people are coming at it from a much different level. We've been able to pass on to them. The most important thing is how do they make a difference in our world, and, look for the people on the margins and look for people that are in need, near home and far from home. And Columbus does that as well as anybody in the entire Marist world around our planet.
Well, thank you, brother. It's a credit to the people we have and the Marist brothers we have and have had at Columbus. No doubt about it. We all stand on the shoulders of giants, and there have been some tremendous Marist brothers giants at Columbus that have influenced 16,000 graduates, no question. One thing, brother, every time you mention young people, and you've mentioned them quite a bit, you get a little twinkle in your eye. What is it about working with young people that is so special to you? Because it's clear it means a great deal to you.
Well, I mean, first off, I mean, they are our future, and they are the greatest hope we have in this world. As I mentioned, that Columbus can hold its head high in terms of looking back on its alumni and the current students. Just in the last couple of years, I mean, I look at a guy like Danny Rodriguez, a proud alumnus of Columbus, who's on your board now.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny was a student in high school, not too long ago,
You
a lot less than we were, and went on a mission trip, and that impacted his life to go into college and to study, and created the Blue Missions, and has helped thousands of families in the Dominican Republic in receiving water and just basic necessities of life. I look at, and there's so many. I could tell you 100 Danny stories from of other young people like him, who are willing, at a young age to say, you know what, I see a need in this world. I can do something about it, and I will do something about it. I mean, some simple examples. I mean, in the last 2 years, we've done a lot in the province, at the province level, and at each of the school levels, in the area of ecology, promoting Pope Francis's Laudato Si movement, and really just caring for our common home. And I've been part of. We had the last one for the year last night. A Province Green Team. It meets monthly by Zoom, and there's young people and some teachers from each of the schools, around 10 schools, Marist schools around the country on that. They've had international Zooms with 4 or 5 different countries, over 100 kids at a time on those. But each of the young people, the passion of those young people, there's a student here, a senior at the moment, will be graduating soon, Andrew, who was absolutely fantastic. I mean, he was one of the influential people with Christine Taylor, to bringing a new program this year at Columbus with the renewable recycling, where the plastic that's being, just thrown away, will become T-shirts and will become things that we'll be able to use not only at Columbus but also at the province level. So I mean, young people are leading the charge in an area that's very important in our world. In the last number of years as a province, United States province, not only have we encouraged, as you always do here at Columbus, to look to serve those on the margins, those in need in the local community, but Columbus has helped us as a province lead in terms of being in solidarity with those that are most in the margins. The last 3 years alone, I mean, Columbus led the charge with helping our fellow Marist in Venezuela during horrible times. The teachers and the families there would not have had food or medicine on their tables had it not been for the efforts of our young people in our schools and alumni that were supportive. Next year, this coming, I'll be sending a video to everyone at Columbus in the first week of November. In September, we'll be opening the first ever Marist-owned school in Liberia, West Africa. Those students will be starting day one there in September, and I'm going to the dedication with Brother Dave Cooney, who was one of the brothers that started our Marist mission in Liberia in '85. We're going over the dedication, and I'll make videos there that day. That never would have happened without the effort of Columbus, and without some of our other Marist schools and benefactors around the country. This year we're helping Madagascar. Young people today just have a great passion for wanting to make a difference in the world. And it's inspiring. It's hopeful. It's knowing that, many of us, John, like yourself, we've given the gift of our lives as educators, to schools. And at the end of the day, you look back and say it's been worth the gift of our lives, because what we've given is people that are going to take this baton and bring it to places maybe we never could have. And they're already doing it, some of them.
And the fact that the Marist brothers have allowed lay people to take on more of a leadership role, because we've been so well versed in the Marist values, it's been a tremendous honor for us to carry on what you guys have started and to help you continue all of those things. And talk about the role of lay people in the growth of the Marist brothers.
Well, there's some people that might think, the heyday of Marist brothers was the 1950s or early 60s, when there were 50 Marist brothers going through formation every year, and all those. You see some of the old pictures.
Yeah.
But you look at the reality of life. I don't have the exact statistics, but ballpark around 1958 or 59 was the height of Marist brothers in terms of numbers in the world. At that time in the world, there were, I think, well over 10,000 Marist brothers in the world, let's say in 1958 or 59.
Okay.
At that time period, we were in 30 countries. And most schools, I'm sure Columbus, if you look at the old yearbooks, would have been probably 50 Marist brothers and maybe one or two lay people on staff. That would have been typical.
Pretty much.
Would be typical of every Marist school around the world. Okay.
Okay.
And that, obviously Vatican II came in the early 60s and things evolved, and those numbers of vocations were not happening with 40 and 50 people joining any religious order or priesthood again after those time period. So many people say, oh, the decline of the Marist brothers. And, we know today we're less than 3,000 brothers in the world. Okay. So is it declining? But the interesting thing about it, when you look at it, today we're less than 3,000 brothers and we're in 82 countries in the world. We have more than doubled our mission. And it happened because of our communion with lay Marists. When the number of vocations stopped, new vocations came into to really be part of the church, and the lay Marists, our lay Marist educators. I mean, the last 4 years here in the United States, we've created another movement called the Marist of Champagne, where that not only are working with us, but say they want to even more deeply live that spirituality, go through a formation process. Like I went to a provincials meeting last year, and people were talking about numbers of their provinces. Well, when I took over 4 years ago, we had about 110 brothers. Now with the brothers and the Marist of Champagne who have made a commitment, we're at like 300. I've tripled the size of the province. I mean, and I think that very proudly, because we have, in a very, very real way, expanded the mission, because we have brothers and lay people committed in communion together for the same mission, who are, and there are brothers that will say the same as I will. I mean, there are lay Marists like yourself, John, that are doing things none of us could have ever dreamed of doing. And the fact that we're doing it together is allowing our mission to grow in ways that we could never have dreamed of, nor could have Champagne dreamed of. And like I said, our mission is just continuing to grow and expand, and that's not going to change, and it's just going to continue to grow, and we've been blessed as well. I mean, I think, while the model is different, we no longer need to have 50 brothers in a school. If we have 2 or 3 with great lay people, you still need that communion, the brothers to be there to share the spirituality and so on. But we've been blessed. Like in this country, every year, we're getting Marist Brother vocations. We have 2 brothers take first vows last year. 2 more will be taking them this summer. We have somebody else knocking on the door, maybe 2 more for next year. So we've been blessed that we'll still have brothers to continue to walk with and support the tremendous amount of lay people that are part of our incredible mission.
I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and it took me back to when we had that alumni gathering in New York, and you and Brother Owen showed up. And
you give out free drinks. Marist brothers are going to be there.
Yeah, that is a fact, brother. Marist Brother's favorite drink is the next one. You can say that about the Irish too.
And I'm guilty of both.
So we're there, and some of the young alumni they're like, "Sir, who is that guy over there?" And it reminded me of the Marist pillars of presence and simplicity. You just walked in like a normal guy, and you instantly dove in with our guys, and we're just going back and forth and making them feel welcome. And I'm just sitting back watching this going, this is what it's all about. The fact that the provincial could walk in like a regular guy and be, rubbing elbows with these young 20 and 30 somethings. And they're like, later they go, "Sir, he's the provincial?" I said, "Yeah, and that's why he's a great provincial, because you had no idea." And so I think that resonates very well with young people: presence and simplicity and sincerity. And that's something that so many of the Marist brothers have. And it was just great to see that in action.
Well, I think young people know very, very quickly if you're real or not.
Yeah.
I got great advice, starting out. I had my first week of teaching. I didn't know anything. I was a half page behind the kids, let alone ahead of them. But someone pointed out, I had somebody who was a great educator. She said, the only thing you got, very similar to Champagne. I mean, in the same kind of philosophy. She said, if you respect every kid in your class, they'll know that right away. Champagne's whole model was if you want to educate young people, you need to love them and love them equally. And kids know that. The kids know whether you're real or. And it is. I mean, the titles we hold or the jobs we hold are just, for a moment, and I'll be happy to go back cutting grass in Esopus or running retreats or doing whatever, blowing a whistle, because they're only just, mechanisms of allowing us to, how can we be, for the time we're in it, be part of and help the mission move forward. I mean, it being provincial is not, I always feel bad because, I feel so at times so far removed from the real mission, of not day to day being involved in, in real ways with young people as I had been for most of my life. But I look forward to getting back to it at some point. But I mean, it's, we all play the small role we can at the times we're asked to do different things. And, but young people are our greatest treasure. They're our greatest gift. And we're just so blessed at all of our schools to have and continue to have great young people coming through. And it's just, it never gets old.
It keeps you young, right?
Yeah.
What's that old saying? They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that is a very Marist trait, and it's something we're all proud of. You do have a tough job. You travel a great deal. You have a lot of responsibility, and you're the provincial here, but yes, you're also involved around the world. You mentioned you're going to Liberia. How do you deal with the demands of the job?
Yeah, travel gets old, but it's great. Every place is great when you get there. So now you just kind of get, a lot of times just got to kind of build in a travel, expecting that it's not going to all go smoothly, more and more. But that's just part of the gig for the time being. But I think you just keep it basic, keep it simple. I mean, the things that that feed me, that keep me involved, or keep me grounded. My own prayer life. I mean, I have a spiritual director I go to every month. Trying to make an effort to be home at community when I can be.
Okay.
And then just, some practical things. Like, I mean, as much as I mentioned, I don't get to, on a day-to-day basis, work with young people. I build in things that I know, like I need to do every year. Every year I cook for a week in Esopus in the summertime with our camps for the disabled children. I work one of the encounters every year during the course of the year with Matt Fallon and Esopus. I usually run one mission trip a year.
Okay.
Go on. So at least, even though those 2 or 3 things, only 2 or 3 things a year, it's like, for me, it's like those 2 or 3 times during the year when I feel most alive, and it keeps me kind of connected. It keeps me saying, this is what it's all about. It reminds me of, a lot of times we do a lot of stuff in this work behind the scenes or, whatever it might be. Like when I was doing development work at Roseville Catholic, I mean, spent a lot of time raising money and meeting with alumni, which in itself was great. But it was really because you then got to see firsthand what the money got to go with: scholarships, helping kids that couldn't be there. So it made you want to even do more of that. More. You saw kids that if they didn't have scholarships, they wouldn't get into the school. And you say, well, you know what? At this time in my life, I'm called to try to do something to make sure that happens. So I think anytime we get these roles, it's a grace. You just say, you look at the bigger picture, say, what do I need to do at this time to be of help as best I can?
I look back over the years at Columbus and the Marist brothers that established the foundation, built the foundation, and have continued it. When you really break that list down, they're an amazing group of men. Obviously, Brother Kevin, Brother Edmund, Brother Eugene, God bless him, Brother Herb, the list goes on, and Marcus and Al. And, I think back to the guys I had when I was in school. Those men made a difference. And Brother Pat, what he did for Columbus in his own unique fashion. those are men that will never be forgotten. And we greatly appreciate that the Marist brothers trust what we're doing, what Tom is doing, what Dave is doing, what the teachers are doing. And it's a great feeling. There's a synergy there that really, really works. And your leadership has been invaluable in that. And so, personally, Dan, I thank you. And I always end the episode with one question, and it couldn't be more apropos speaking to you. What does being Marist mean to Brother Dan O'Riordan?
I think at its core, it's an incredible gift to be part of a huge extended family of brothers, of lay people, of young people, who are making this world an incredible better place because of how they live their lives. I mean, as you said earlier, John, I mean, we stand on the shoulders of giants, who have given us the gifts, and it's our turn now, to leave something, for the people that come behind us, and it's we all got to take up that role and just do what we can every day and enjoy the days. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about. Is that you want to change the world. It's one person at a time. It's one relationship at a time, and we're so blessed as Marist to be constantly put into the opportunities of being able to do that. With the young people that come into our lives, so many of the way we impact young people. I mean, the classroom is which is significant, is probably the least amount of way we do that. It's really and you see it across the board every day in the hallways or in the or ball fields. It's the coaches, the teachers taking a kid to the side or knowing there's something going on with them, and they're the things they're never going to forget. 50 years from now, I can tell you this: in all my years of teaching, I don't know that there's any kid that'll remember anything I taught them in math. But my hope and my prayer for myself and for other all of us would be they'll remember how we taught them, how we cared for them, how we maybe took the time to listen to them, and if they remember that, they'll know what it means to be Marist.
Well, I think that they do remember that, because when they see you again, be it 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, with their eyes light up, and that is gratification. You did something right. Like you said, you devote your entire life to something. You want it to come back and then carry on. It's a nice legacy to leave. It is.
And it also works the opposite way. I mean, you go to the 10 or the 20 or the 30-year reunion, and it's like, I light up, and it just brings you all the joy of the gift that they were in my life back. And it's like, it's something neither one of us are ever going to forget, in the sense of it works both ways. I mean, we have a privilege to be able to pass something on, but, knowing that you do it and it meant something, it'll always stay with you,
That's a life well led right there, my friend. And Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I've enjoyed it. I'm sure the Columbus community is going to enjoy it. And God bless you. And I hope long may you run, Dan, for a long time.
Thank you so much for this privilege. And God bless all of the explorers out there and the incredible impact all of you continue to have for this great school and for the wider community in the world. God bless you, everybody. Thanks so much.
All right, Explorer Nation. That's a wrap for season 5. And what a high note to go out on. Looking forward to next year with many more diverse and special guests. So enjoy the summertime. It's the best part of education. It's called summer. Make it count. Make the days count. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take it easy. Buenos tiempos. And as always, adelante. Thank you, Dan.
Adelante.